Hi, quick video on how I've set up Visual Studio Code for SQL Server and PowerShell development. So let's launch Visual Studio Code. I have a project here that I've been working on recently. If we click on this button here, this shows you all the extensions for Visual Studio Code. And these are the ones that I normally like to use. So if we go to the Blackboard theme, that's the one I like on my projects. To enable it, you press Ctrl-Shift-P, type in theme, and preferences theme, and then you choose Blackboard. Now I have a Blackboard theme. So if I go back to my project, if I load some PowerShell, you can see that we now have the theme installed. Next one is Docker. So any Docker files that you have, it will color code those for you, and there's other stuff. I'd recommend that. GitLens is great for looking at Git. Let's just make this a bit bigger. I highly recommend that. I won't go into the details of it now, but because that will take 15 minutes or so to go through. Gitignore, this allows you to create a new Gitignore file. So if I press Ctrl-Shift-P in my project and Gitignore, you can add a Gitignore file, and that will add one to your repo. I already actually have one in this repo, so I don't need to do that. But for new projects, that's quite handy to have. If you use Jenkins, then, which I do occasionally, this is a useful one. This color codes your Jenkins files, makes them easier to read. For writing Markdown, I highly recommend this one. So when you're writing your README files, it color codes those, and you get a preview. Where's the preview gone? There's the preview. Let's close that. So that's a handy one to have. I like that one. SQL Server, this is a nice one to have as well if you want to do some quick SQL. So let's go back to scripts. Let's add a new file. Let's add mysql.sql. So this is a SQL file here, so we press Ctrl-Shift-P again, and it's downloading the SQL Tools layer at the moment. So if I do connect, so MS SQL Connect, let's just do that again, MS SQL Connect. So we need to create a connection profile. My server name is called Crocus. Database name, let's just say master for now, and we'll do an integrated login, and we'll call this profile Crocus Master. So once we've done that, we've now connected to our SQL Server, and you can see down here Crocus Master is connected and it's not encrypted. So now we can do write queries against our server. So we can write select, and notice that it auto completes for you as well. Select star from, let's have a look, sys.databases. Have a look at our databases list, and then press Ctrl-Shift and E, and that will run the query against SQL Server and then put the results on the side there. So that's handy. If you're writing some SQL and you want to just run a quick command, that will do that for you. What else have we got? Oh, and incidentally, on the SQL thing, once you've saved your profile, you do click connect. So we need to be in a file first. So let's do Ctrl-Shift-P. Let's do MS SQL Connect, and it saves the ones that you've connected to before. So that's pretty handy. PowerShell, this is one that I use an awful lot. Writing PowerShell scripts. Now if you press Control and single quote, that brings up a PowerShell window at the bottom there. That then allows you to run any commands. If I type in, say, get, notice the auto completion here, process, press tab, and then press F8, that will run that in the window below. So you can see your results in Visual Studio Code, a bit like the PowerShell ISE. I prefer Visual Studio Code. That's a great one to have. Prettify JSON is another nice one. So if we go back to our MS SQL and let's run this command. And if we save that as JSON, let's put that in our scripts tab, and we'll call that databases.json. Let's close that. So now we've got all of our databases listed here in a JSON file. What we can do with this is right click. So I know if you do Control-Shift-P and type in pretty JSON, it will format your JSON file. So if you get one that's serialized and there's a big mess, it will format it into a nice, easy to read file. That's a handy one. Visual Studio Team Services one. This is, I really like this one as well. So if you do Control-Shift-P and type in team, you get to see all kinds of things. So you can create a bug, create new work items, tasks, all kinds of stuff. But what it does at the bottom of the screen, it tells you which team project you're currently working in. So I'm currently working in on the master branch of this project. You can browse your pull requests. It looks at the last build for this project and your work items and all kinds of other stuff. So that's handy. And the last one I have is XML tools. So if you're looking at XML files, which I do occasionally, that it formats those for you and makes them look nice. So let's close all of these windows. Don't save that, don't save that, and don't save that. What I'd like to show you now is the preferences. We go to settings. Now in here, I haven't actually set this up yet, but what I normally do is I set my font family to, now if you click copy to settings, that copies it to your user settings. So when next time it loads, it will put this in for you. Now I use one called Fira Code. If I press save, if I load that back in, we can now see that the font has changed to Fira Code. Now if we go to Edge here and look for Fira Code GitHub, just do a search for that. What I like about it is it puts in the ligatures, the programming ligatures. So what does that mean? So these symbols here, they combine them. So if you have, this is the standard set of symbols, and this is what it looks like with the ligatures. So these have all got funny names. So for example, if I do, I haven't switched them on. So you need to switch on font ligatures. So let's go to user settings. So I've got my font installed. If I type in ligatures and then say set that to true, go back to here. And if I now do greater than or equal rather, it does that for you. If you do 3 dots, it puts them as a proper ellipsis. Equals, if you do 3 equals in a row, it does that. So I quite like that. What else have we got? So let's go back to user settings. I like to have font size set. So if we do font size and then edit that, copy to settings, I like to set it to 16 to start with. When you press Control S, it will make this bigger. The other one that you might want to do is have the mini-map. So let's do the mini-map. The mini-map is enabled by default, so you don't need to switch that on. But the render characters, I like to set that to false. So this mini-map on the side here, if you set that to false, it speeds it up, it makes it a lot faster. And you can't read that anyway, so I like to set that. The other thing I like to do is I like to do mouse wheel zoom. So by default, if I scroll my mouse, if I hold down Control and scroll my mouse, nothing happens. So what I like to do is have mouse wheel, editor.mousewheel zoom, set that to true, and then when I scroll the mouse, it does that. So that's quite handy if you're doing a presentation or whatever. You can scroll and zoom in with your mouse. Just press Control and then scroll your mouse wheel. That's a handy one. Another one is render white space. I like to set this to boundary. So what this does is it shows you the white space before, whether you've got spaces or tabs. It's just handy to know where your spaces and tabs are. You can see here that we have some white space at the end. Now, because boundary is specified, it doesn't put little dots in between the spaces between words, so it makes it a bit cleaner. So that's another one I like. Another one is indent guides. I like to set that to true. That's true by default, so let's leave that. Show folding controls. I like to set that to always. So when you're in your code, you can fold it down like that. That's handy. Now if you do zoom level, set your window.zoom level to 0. You can change that to whatever you like, and that will zoom. Notice what it does is it makes everything bigger, including the text at the bottom, the text at the top. So if I set that to 2, it makes everything bigger on the window. So that's quite handy if you're doing a presentation as well. If I set that back to 0. One thing to note, that if when you're using your mouse wheel zoom, it only does the text inside the windows, but window.zoom level does everything. So that's quite useful to know. What else have we got here? So I've got my SQL Server connections. You can add a load of those in if you like. So you have those available. Another one I like to do is auto save. File auto save, and I like to change that to on window change. So when you move away from a window, it will auto save your document. So if you're working on one file, make a change to it, go to a different window, it auto saves that window. So that's quite handy. What else have we got? File auto save delay. Let's not bother with that one. So there's a one for PowerShell settings. This one annoys a lot of people. So if we go to PowerShell .start automatically is true. I actually like to set that to false. So what that means is when you open Visual Studio Code with a PowerShell window, it doesn't load the terminal by default. So it just loads it in this view here. So that's, I prefer to have it like that. And if you want the PowerShell console, you just press Control and down tick. Sorry, not down tick, single quote, and PowerShell window will show up. What else we got? I think that's about it for me. So that's it. Hope you found it useful. And also the other thing is, when you're working with Git, you can do Control-Shift-P and then Git, and you can create branches. So using Control-Shift-P can, if you learn a few of those, it makes your work a lot more efficient. So thanks for watching.